Let's start with a quick round of introductions. So we'll start to my left. Quick introduction to your background and your fund and the thesis of your fund.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. My name is Alan Lau. The one-sentence description, very simple. A recovering CEO, three-time entrepreneur, electrical engineer by training. Now I'm a deep tech VC. For our firm, I'm the operating partner and co-founder at Two Small Fish Ventures. We are an early-stage deep tech fund. Our thesis, I can spend 2 hours on this, but you'll kill me, so I'll distill down to one sentence. We invest in the next frontier of computing and its applications.
All right, I like the definition of recovering entrepreneur. Similar, Marty Reed, five-time founder, turned VC. I lead Evok Innovations. We are a kind of Series A, B industrial deep tech fund. And as a badly recovering entrepreneur, I also founded another company about 3 years ago in the carbon capture space.
Jenny Yang, I'm an engineer, then was a VC, then left and started 2 companies, exited, then became an angel investor, and now I'm going back into VC. So I've partnered up with RiSC Capital, and we're a deep tech early stage VC fund, investing in deep tech across Canada. Typical check sizes, $500,000 to $1.5 million or so.
Hey everybody, Mike Winterfield with Active Impact Investments. We're a climate tech seed stage fund. We're deploying out of our third fund, which is a $110 million fund. And we're climate generalists, so really across the board. I know the topic today is deep tech, and I can share where we've dabbled there, but we work with a lot of different business models. Prior to getting into venture, came from the operating side, so sort of grew up through the sales organization of a couple of different companies, but was on the executive team of 2 companies that are private equity backed, and both of them ended up getting bought by large publicly traded companies.
All right, so for the purpose of this discussion, we'll be very broad in our definition of deep tech and just simply say things that are really hard and you can't vibe code, right? So, talk to me a little bit about where you think some of the opportunities are right now. And Alan, I'm going to start with you very intentionally because when you started Two Small Fish, the original thesis of Two Small Fish was really around network effects. And with the recent fund, you literally turned the entire thesis of the fund in a different direction, or at least that's what it seems like from the outside.
At least it seems like
right?
that way. But
so let's talk about that.
Yeah, so perhaps I'll give you a little bit more context. I was the former CEO and co-founder of Wattpad. It's an AI-driven storytelling company with 100 million users before we sold to Naver a few years ago. So our first principle has not changed. Our first principle is we only invest in things that we really understand. So in the first few years, we primarily look at network effect-based companies, a lot of marketplaces, but we also understand AI really well because we started to become an AI company. Wattpad became an AI company in 2012. So we've been operating as an AI company for 10 years, and some of our investment, like BenchSci and Ada, we wrote the first check to them, at least for Ada. After they pivoted, we wrote the first check. And they were both amazing AI companies. So what happened was around perhaps like 2019, 2018, around that time, when we look at the marketplace opportunities, we just could not find any amazing companies anymore. I think that market is starting to close. So we started to think about what else we can invest while staying true to our first principle. I'll skip a few steps. We also have some new partners joining us. But our first principle, as I said, we only invest in things that we understand, both academically, technically, and operationally. So the areas that we invest in right now, next frontier of computing, includes AI, deep tech AI infrastructure, physical AI, i.e. robotics, semiconductor, advanced computing hardware like semiconductors, quantum, and of course smart energy as well. These are the areas of all four partners who are all engineers who study that, work in companies like that for years, and now we turn ourselves into investors. And that's a very natural transition from our old thesis to where we are today.
Marty, your firm is a little bit later in the proverbial life cycle. How have the opportunities changed from Fund 1 and when you were starting out and the things you're investing in to today? Are you seeing materially different areas? Are there things that are more or less interesting to you that you're investing in?
Well, I'll step back for 1 second. And this may be heresy in a room like this, but we think software makes everything in the world better, but at the end of the day, you can't eat software. And so at Evok, we very intentionally invest in the electrons, the minerals, and the molecules that enable everything we enjoy in the world. And when we think about how do we supply the growing demand for those three things, how do we do that sustainably? And so the questions we ask ourselves as a fund, we have gone a little later stage, is, do we see a credible path to this really having meaningful impact? And so for us, yeah, we tend to write larger checks, Series A, Series B. What does it take to get our attention? Yeah, a deep, deep understanding of what does it take to deploy this at scale. In the software world, once you hit product market fit, you just crank the engine, and next thing you know, you got millions of users. If you're trying to break into the mining sector and producing copper more efficiently, as an example, that is a very, very different path. And so I think the struggle that we continue to see is there's a lot of brilliant scientists, PhDs, who have invented a hammer, and now they're trying to go find nails. We're trying to find those folks that have invented a better hammer, but also understand how the hammer can be used, and the customers agree with them. Once the customer agrees, then we're excited. We'll write you the biggest check as you want. So.
All right, and let's slingshot back the other way, Jenny. Right, you've bounced back between super early stage angel investor, super early stage VC, super early stage angel investor, and so on and so forth. What are the things that you're looking at, really, really at the beginning as you're looking at companies, and particularly as you've joined RiSC, what are some of the things that you guys are excited in now?
Yeah, so as an angel, I've invested in software, AI software. I've also invested in deep tech stuff. So about half my angel portfolio is in pretty deep tech, med devices, and so on. The big difference that I see in deep tech is that I think of deep tech like a drug discovery company. You need to know what market you're building this for. So in drugs, you already know your patient population. You know who's sick, and you know that if you just made a better drug, that there's someone that's going to take that drug. In deep tech, I kind of feel like you need to have that similar perspective, just like what Marty said. You need to know who your market is, because me as an investor, I'm willing to underwrite the technical risk, because the technical risk is so high, right? So I'm actually underwriting your technical risk. I don't want to underwrite your market risk, right? So I want to know that you understand that market, you know what quantity, what magnitude of improvement you need to have so that your customers would adopt your technology. And now I'm going to take a risk that you, the technologist, know how to build this product, right? And so that's a big difference. With software, you can kind of pivot quickly. You can sort of find your market. And I've seen many companies do that. You can hustle your way into a market. Deep tech, much harder to do.
All right, and then in your case, Mike, right, you have an unapologetically impact climate-focused fund, and you've said to me in the past, right, if one of the objectives isn't making the world a better place, improving the climate, then that's sort of not of interest to us. What are the things that you guys are looking at that intersection of, climate, kind of energy, making the world a better place, but you're not an altruistic fund, right? You're in it to make money. So what's really interesting to you guys right now?
Yeah, I think that's what sort of dragged us into deep tech, and I'm going to use deep tech in a very general sense. I'm sure Marty's fund, being a deep tech fund, they have a very specific definition of what fits into their thesis and doesn't. But as climate generalists, I would say we're basically looking at this as being a super exciting time in human history, massive amount of innovation going on, a reimagining of, when you think about it from a climate standpoint, moving from being an extractive society in terms of how we build and produce to reimagining that and thinking through energy, thinking through transportation, thinking through labor, thinking through food, and like what's a smarter way to be able to produce these things. And if you can find a smarter way to be able to produce them and find a way to be able to do it sustainably, then there's a lot of money in that. And so that's the intersection for us. And I think if you think about it from a thesis standpoint, where we have shied away and where we think we have no business participating is a little bit where Jenny was talking about, which is like you really have to have the subject matter expertise and you have to understand something coming from innovation within a lab and understand how that innovation from a lab might be able to scale through the different stages. That's not us. We don't understand the TRLs. What we describe as fit for us is something that's capital light, market ready. And so typically we're looking at things that within our funding cycle that we can see that there would be sort of an inflection point on generating revenue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, in the last panel, we talked a little bit about this seeming convergence of energy companies that's taking place here. If you think about the pan-Canadian market, right, are there areas that any of you are seeing that, hey, it looks like Canada's getting really good at X, or hey, there's an opportunity for Canada and Canadian startups to be world leaders in Y? What are some of the opportunities in this sort of shifting geopolitical landscape where we've got some advantage here? And open that to anybody.
I'll start. I've always been looking for that because I think for Canada to be strong, we need to be known for something, and I don't think we have that right now. I see a lot of quantum stuff getting a lot of traction in Quebec, let's say. They've spent a lot of money, the province's money and stuff, to build quantum expertise. Locally we have photonics as well. And so I think there's sort of a cluster of maybe quantum, with D-Wave starting off. And so we've got lots of expertise there. So that's really interesting, although quantum is the perpetual 20-year thing. So I don't know when that's going to happen. But I'm hopeful that we can build deep expertise there. Around electrochemical energy, so battery technology, there's some really good electrochemistry stuff in BC, as well as in actually in the East Coast, Dalhousie, very strong labs. So there are certain, like our research universities are very, very good. And we have in our labs some really, really innovative technology, right? Each province has their specialties, and it's about figuring out what those are. But I've seen quantum, I see electrical, and then BC also is very strong on the life science side, for sure. So medical devices as well as drug discovery.
I would add, well, AI, obviously, how many Nobel Prizes we won, how many Turing Awards we won as Canadians. I don't think there's no argument here. We actually have a lot of top-notch, world-class scientists here. And have to trace back a little bit in the history. Everyone knows Canadarm, and Canadian government pumped hundreds of millions of dollars 3-4 decades ago for that Canadarm project on this space shuttle. And the unintended, perhaps fully intended side effect was we actually have a lot of top-notch robotic scientists in the country. And same thing I would say for quantum starting to happen. Like if you look at Quebec, in past decade, they pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into Quebec to build up the quantum ecosystem. And the end result was there are a lot of scientists from abroad actually coming to Canada. I can name a few other areas as well. I think one thing we suck as a country is to tell that story. Nobody knows. Nobody knows we have top-notch scientists here, or robotic scientists here, or quantum scientists. AI a little bit more, but I would say San Francisco is doing a much better job in pumping this up. I think our talent is equally good, if not better. We are not good at marketing this. We are not good at telling the story, and hence, in a way, we are not very good at turning this into commercialization, turning this into product. We are kind of stuck at the great scientist stage.
I want to take this high level because I can't help myself. So if you go back 20 years, 5 of the largest companies in the world, measured by market cap, produced molecules that we burned. Today, 9 of the 10 largest companies in the world consume electrons and convert those electrons into bits and bytes that we all consume now on our phones. And so if you're thinking about what the future of the world is, the production of electrons to supply this is by far the biggest trend that I have seen in the last 50 years. And I was in Silicon Valley in the 90s. And so anything around that I think is interesting. Where do I think, and this will be controversial, where do I think Canada can absolutely take a leadership role in this? Nuclear fission. We are vertically integrated. We have the best uranium mines in the world. We've got the best nuclear research facilities in the world, and we've got some of the largest nuclear plants that have been operating successfully for generations. This is an area we could win.
All right. Anything to add, Mike?
I'll just try to round it out with something that hasn't been said, but I mean, Canada's a global leader in a lot of natural resources, right? So fishing, forestry, mining, oil and gas, we have been a major player in all those fields, and all those have been extractive in the past, and all those are having to find ways to reinvent themselves and become sustainable in the future as supplies diminish. So first deal that Marty and I have done together is not even announced, but it's in the advanced geothermal space, and that's a great application to take Canadian innovation and engineering in the oil and gas sector and reapply it with a lot of really transferable skills.
All right, so I'm going to ask you guys one more question, then we'll open it up for 1 or 2 from the audience. Today, right, what are you looking for in the founders you meet? What are the things, whether it's traction, whether it's description, whether it's subjective or objective, what gets you excited as an investor today? We'll start with you, Alan.
Well, absolutely not traction if you are looking for early stage deep tech founders. I would say for us, table stakes, top-notch defensible technology. If you don't have that, we are not interested. But that's table stakes. That's not nearly enough. To Jenny's point, we have to look at technology, which is usually science nerds build what they love to build, but they also have to be great product people. Great product people they build things that people love to use. And then the third piece of the puzzle is commercialization. It's building things that people would pay for. It's different than product, absolutely different than technology. So we have to connect all the dots and visualize, can this founder turn this piece of amazing technology into someone millions of people would use and millions of people would pay billions of dollars would pay for in 10 years?
I'll thread this in actually with your last question as well, which is we look for generally 2 people. We want someone with deep domain technical expertise, and this is another advantage Canada has. I think we have some of the best engineering and science universities in the world, full stop. And so there's no coincidence that probably 2/3 of our portfolio have deep ties into UBC, University of Calgary, wherever it may be. Most importantly, though, I want that technical person to know that they should not be running the core business side of things. And so I want them to have partnered up with someone that came out of one of our business schools or came out of commercial operations out of the industries that we are trying to serve. Great technology plus great business equals a great company. If you're missing one of those 2 pieces, I don't think it works well.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, maybe because I'm in earlier stage. The highest value founder are the ones that are technical, but can also talk to people. And those are really hard to find, I have to say. But that's what I found the best. I mean, the best performing companies in my portfolio, like Aspect Bio, is because Tamer is not only deeply technical, but he knows how to talk to people. He knows how to explain his technology in a way that people understand, right? Those are actually the best founders. So founder-led companies is my #1 preference. Now, oftentimes you don't have that. And so what's the #2? A technical founder who recognizes They don't have the business expertise, but also respect the business expertise. Because I've also seen companies where the founder goes, oh, I don't want to do the business, I'll just hire someone. And that's almost like, well, they're secondary. Like, it's my technology that wins. That's not the case. It's not the technology that wins. And so it's a mind shift for these PhDs to think that maybe they're not the smartest, or they might be intellectually the smartest, but the business person is just as important, if not more important. And so if I feel like they cannot be the business person also, I have to see that they recognize that in themselves and they value and respect their business partner. And I've seen deals go awry because they did not respect their business partner. So it's those two type of people that I look for.
We're seed stage and pre-seed stage, so we're very, very founder focused. Combination we're looking for at the beginning is it's got to be a giant problem, giant opportunity. So working on the right thing, and then who we believe is the right person to execute on that. That might sound obvious, but you could take the most talented person in the world and have them work on a small problem. You're going to get a small outcome. You could also take the most interesting, largest market opportunity and put someone who is incapable, and that's not going to go anywhere either. On the founder side, the different funds have a different approach to this. Sometimes they'll only work with tried and true founders. Some will work with only emerging founders. We sort of have a bucket and a strategy for both. So the tried and true founder is somebody who has built something interesting before and been able to return a lot of money back to investors, has seen a good exit. We have a group of those in our portfolio. We like those founders. But we also have a strategy around looking at potential instead of experience. And for all of you, if you haven't had the benefit yet of being able to have a big outcome, the advice would be you got to be able to demonstrate your potential. So we look for signs of brilliance of things that they have done before in the past that we think are transferable. So maybe they've been the best at something out of the entire field, and that's not easy to do, to be the best at anything. And so if you've been able to be the best at something before, maybe you'll be able to be the best at something again. One of the first founders that we backed was the #1 tree planter. And I know how hard that job is, and he wasn't 5% better than the next. He was actually 100% better than every other person in the camp, going down to the second best. So that was just an interesting thing that we looked at and we picked up on as a personality trait, and he actually ended up giving us a really nice exit out of our Fund 1 portfolio. So there's 4 traits we look for. I can tell you very quickly: intelligence, accountability, tenacity, and then ability to lead other people.
All right. So we'll throw it out to the audience for 1 or 2 questions, if anyone has some for our investors.
For those of you who remember early on when you started your venture capital company or got into the business, what were some of the early mistakes or lessons learned that you can give to some of us that want to do the same? In hard tech, of course.
I'll answer the question, which for those who didn't hear, it's like, what are the challenges when you sort of shift from being an entrepreneur to a venture capitalist? And what I'll say, Slow, is as an entrepreneur, you are convinced you can lean in and fix every problem through tenacity, through hustle, through hard work. And by definition, as venture capitalists, we have to be able to filter through hundreds and hundreds of opportunities and say no way more often than that is comfortable as an entrepreneur, where you want to say yes, I can help, yes, I can fix this. And so my advice for anyone who thinks they want to be a VC or an angel investor, sit on the sidelines and sort of pretend, and then track some of those deals and see where you would have been right or would have been wrong. But it's a mind shift difference. And so I apologize to the founders out there that have pitched me and I didn't invest. It doesn't mean your business isn't a great business. It means I've got 50 filters I have to run through before a deal makes sense for me. And it doesn't necessarily reflect negatively on you or your business. It's just we are in a very unique world that we live in venture capital.
I would echo that. We see thousands of decks per year, probably meet 1,000 founders per year. I think I'm not alone. I think all the VCs would do something similar. And for us, we write 5 checks per year, 5. out of 1,000 meetings, out of perhaps 4,000, 5,000 decks, right? So the hit ratio is actually very, very low. I just want to double click on your point. Whereas as an entrepreneur, you don't say no 99.9% of the time. It's a very different mindset shift. But I would say I'm in a slightly different position because my main job, if you look at my title, is operating partner. My main job is to help entrepreneurs, not helping them in the company, but helping them to make higher quality decisions so that the company can move faster, be better. So in a way, I don't have as much saying no 99.9% of the time problem. I feel very excited and motivated to work with the founders all day long to solve big problems, help them solve big problems.
Yeah, I would say as an investor, you have to build your intuition. And the intuition of an investor is very different from an intuition as a founder, because I've been on both, right? I mean, so have you guys. So you know this. When you first start, somebody said it costs more money to train a VC than it does an astronaut, because you're going to burn through the first bit of money you invest. You're going to make mistakes, and these are multi-million-dollar mistakes. So my advice to anyone that wants to start into the investing world is start writing small angel checks first. Like do a few investments in that size, or even don't even invest your own money, take equity, be an advisor and take some equity. So build an angel portfolio somehow and see how your decision making turns out. Like give yourself a year or two just to do that before you decide whether your intuition, like this is something you want to do, and whether or not your intuition is right or not. You're going to burn through a lot of money. So don't jump right in 2 feet. Just take a little bit of money first because you can practice. And I would encourage you to do that first.
All right. Well, I'm going to end this panel with one quick observation. Every once in a while, people here in Vancouver tend to think that Toronto doesn't pay attention to us. I'd like to acknowledge Alan, who this morning, despite Air Canada's best efforts, got on a plane, flew from Toronto here to sit on this stage to turn around and fly back later this afternoon.
Yes.
So, thank you all.